music.
Good evening.
I brought a friend with me.
I'm going to be sort of sitting in the background, but I'm here and eager to.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, Denise. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
We're all gathered in Spartanburg, and Rick and I and Kathleen are all. Kathleen's driving home to see her dogs, but she's going to be doing it from her car.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad. Good to see you, Esther.
Right. Likewise.
We're here and forced to support.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
And to learn.
That's right.
And to learn. Yeah.
Hey, Denise. It's Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen.
How are you?
I'm well. Is the sun still shining where you guys are?
Oh, no.
Only, how shall I say, God's still making the sunshine, but not exactly where we are.
Not here.
Right.
I can't get used to it.
Mm-hmm. We're just talking about that.
I'm gonna wait a few more minutes. Give folks a chance. Well, we're not even at 6:30 yet.
Hi, Denise.
Debra,
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been missing you. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything is fine.
Okay, good.
Just that 1 minute it seems like a meeting is on, and next minute it's canceled. So I don't know.
Well, yeah. That wasn't why. We did skip a few. That's true. I guess I just miss seeing you. We're gonna have to set up a time to connect.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
nice seeing you too.
Thank you. Martha, I don't want to make this part of the agenda, but I think everybody got a notice that Martha had nominated the CATF for the. Oh my God, where did that come from? You guys work fast. Okay.
That was supposed to be once everybody was in here.
Okay, well, you know what, I'll wait. I don't really want to talk about it. I just want to tell Martha how touched I was last night and really highlight the picture. It's actually behind me. So I just wanted to give a private thank you to Martha for such a wonderful evening, and Rex.
Well, it was so well deserved, and I do think it was a lovely event. We've had it in various places. That's the first time we've done it there, but I think that's a perfect spot for it.
Oh,
size wise, and yeah. And if we have it there, then Ben will feed us, right? So it's kind of like what's not to like?
So
well deserved, and your words were wonderful. So thank you for saying some stuff.
Louisa was there. Louisa, I wanted to ask you, were you there to support me, or were you there because you knew everybody in the room?
It was a happy surprise. I didn't know you were going to get the award.
Yeah, I know you're involved with all of that. Rex came down on the last minute, so I wouldn't be by myself, but it was good to have a friendly face in the place.
Yeah, I was very happy.
Great honor.
Yeah. Oh. What I said to everyone and what I said to everyone, and it's exactly true. It's not, I got the award, or my name was called when they gave out the award, but I certainly wouldn't be in this position or able to do that work if it were not for the entire CATF and supporting organizations. So I really don't feel like this was an award for me, so much as it was recognition of the work that we've done as the Healthy Hartford Hub Community Action Task Force, and the impact that we are making as a collective group. That's my takeaway.
Well, the fact that this one was for you, that means that next year, when we have to put nominations in again, we'll just put in the whole group.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's
okay.
Yeah, that sounds right. So we've got quite a bit of stuff to go over. Fernando, you joined us already. Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Res asked me to join at 6:30, so that's what I did.
Okay, well, welcome, and everyone else. Danny, you want to do our icebreaker so we can go ahead and get started?
Yes, good evening, everybody. So, just very brief intro of just your name and what is your favorite healthy food. And mine is actually, I like a lot of healthy food. I'm gonna say smoothies. I love smoothies. And I'll say Rebecca next. She's in the car.
Yep.
Janice, can you go?
Don't chat while you're driving.
Sure, I can. What's my favorite healthy food? This week, is sushi healthy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I picked sushi. And since you answered, Fernando, you're next.
Is chocolate healthy? Well, I
Yes.
love all kinds of fruits. Blueberries, pears, everything. I love everything. Papaya. So, Luisa, you.
Okay, well, all my life I've eaten oatmeal, so I think that's what probably is my favorite. I like all those other things too. My name's Louisa Barton Duguay.
Kick it to somebody.
Oh, pick somebody. Sabra.
Hi, my name is Sabra Mayo. My healthy food is, I'm going to say watermelon. Is that healthy?
I'm just gonna, you don't even have to say me, Safer. I'm gonna say, my name is Jennifer Wilder. Hey, everybody. My favorite is watermelon as well.
Okay.
And I want to pass it on to Rex.
All right, I'm going to say just Google health benefits of broccoli sprouts.
Oh.
So I'm going to say broccoli sprouts.
When's the last time you ate broccoli sprouts?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Put them in smoothies, put them on toast, put them on sandwiches, put them everywhere. They don't taste that great, but they don't taste bad. So I'm going to go Shelby.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shelby Williams, and my favorite healthy food to eat is sweet potato and carrots.
Can you see someone, Shelby?
Let's see. Who hasn't got Martha.
Well, and isn't that a coincidence? Because this is Martha Page, and I was going to say sweet potatoes, particularly at this time of year, and I like them anyway. Boiled, baked, air fried. They're just delicious. And I will pass it to, let me see if I can see who is here that hasn't gone. Rick.
Hello, everyone. Rick Brush with Wellville, and one of my favorite foods is black beans. I love black beans, and especially with a lot of spice on them. I'm going to pass it over to my Wellville colleague,
Esther, and my favorite food is healthy food is fresh raspberries. And Kathleen, are you able to chime in from your car?
Great. I'm here. Thank you, Esther. This is Kathleen, also with Wellville, and I love everything everyone has already said, but I have some wonderful Brussels sprouts tonight, so I'm going to go with that.
They were good.
I can't see who else is on, so you guys pick for me.
Rebecca said strawberry chicken salad is her new thing.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify something. I'm Puerto Rican. Despite what I said before, we consider roast pork very healthy.
And I think Rebecca is in her car going through the drive-through at Panera is what I'm guessing.
Joanna? Has Joanna gone?
Joanna, are you on? I haven't, no.
I'm here. I'm here. I just got here. How's everyone doing?
Good. The question is, what's your favorite healthy food?
I would say zucchini soup.
Zucchini soup.
My grandma made it when I was growing up, and now I make it. So it's basically just like a tomato-based zucchini soup. Zucchini, onions, tomato, basil, garlic, onions.
Sounds delicious.
Mhm.
Has everyone gone?
I think so.
Trying to be mindful of the time.
Yes.
Quite a few things on the agenda. Danny, I see you added Jennifer.
That's right. Yes. So Jennifer is going to talk about Ascend Pipeline for a couple of minutes, real quick.
Yeah, I weaseled my way in, Miss Denise. Thank you for allowing me to have a couple moments. So Ascend Pipeline is and I'm sure maybe some of you have heard of this effort that's happening in the Promise Zone in North Hartford. It's an effort to create a system to support families that live in the North End, especially in the Promise Zone, get access to resources. And so they're doing so by creating what they're calling the pipeline, which is a bridge to services to support families in all areas of life. And so they've been doing these community conversations for the last, I guess, couple of months or so in an effort to get community input. And several of these community conversations are happening in different kinds of ways. So some are in person, some are online. There's like a photo story project that's going on, all kinds of things. And the really cool thing about this lean into supporting them for, realizing the resources that are existing, as well as identifying the holes in systems that people could use being filled up. They are compensating folk for these efforts. And so there's several different opportunities, to lean in. And I'm not going to go into detail of all those opportunities because Danny said that with the notes, she'll send the flyers or the emails that I'm sending her to add to that. But I wanted to be able to just say that this project is happening right here in the city. And although it's focused in the north end of Hartford, when those resources are identified, those resources can be available to all folk. It's just that energies and people, boots on the ground, are going to be centered in the elementary schools, middle schools, high school, places right there in the Promise Zone in terms of like physical people on the ground to kind of help the community. And so it's an opportunity for all Hartford folk to lean in, to ask the hard questions, to say all the things that need to be said in a public space, and to have their voice heard. And again, I'll say be compensated for it. There's stipends at every single initiative that they do to get the folk to lean in. And so just going to pause there and see if there's any questions. I am no expert. However, I've been sitting on the on all of these community conversations, or a lot of them, and trying to lend my voice as a mom of a Hartford student, so a parent and also a member of CATF. And so I know, Denise, there's something that I'll be leaning into you into to ask about. There was some data collaborative folk that are doing resource mapping, and probably Rex too, and was interested in the data that was already being done by the CATF in terms of food deserts. And so that is an area that I think we can really lean into and add lots of value to this pipeline project. And so Rex, I'll be leaning to you and to Ms. Denise to kind of lean it, unless you've already done so, and I don't know, but I ran into a data person and they were so interested in the work that's already being done by the CATF.
Okay, that sounds good, Jennifer. Thank you so much, and we will definitely follow up with you.
Awesome. Thank you. The San Juan Center is a small grantee of this initiative, and is one of the most consequential projects for the next 5 years. So if there's anyone that needs more information, you can reach out to us, San Juan Center.
Thank you both. So with the mayor-elect who will be joining us very shortly, I thought we'd talk about some of the things that we want to bring to his attention. We specifically want to focus on the work that we've done so far in collaboration with all of our community partners and find a way to move the needle forward since we've had so many changes with city officials and with his new administration. There seems to be an excellent opportunity for us to actually build those partnerships and solidify them. And so, Fernando, I know that San Juan Center has been working. One of the things that I want to say in the presence of the entire CATF is that we honor the work that San Juan Center, that you and San Juan Center have done over the many decades when there was actually no attention being paid to this area, except for San Juan Center being a lifeline for the community members, many of whom did not speak English and who were part of, made to feel part of the community because you were there. And so I honor your tenure and your consistency and just want to express my respect for the work that you've done so far and appreciation for your willingness to collaborate with the entire city as we move forward to make sure that the Arrowhead Gateway is indeed a gateway to prosperity for the entire North Hartford. And I'll say it again, had you not had your foot in the door and your finger in the dike, we would not have come this far. And so you are a respected elder in our midst.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. And needless to say, we are committed to do this work. And very soon I will come back to this organization with other projects that are coming down the pipeline.
Yes, yes. So with that being said, and for those, well, anyway, I'll continue. We could do this for a while, but I'll just talk a little bit about what we want to end up with as a end result after our conversation with the mayor-elect. And that is to find a way to, as I mentioned, formalize our relationship and partnership with regards to the work that's being done. There's so many moving pieces within the city government, and the Healthy Hartford Hub and the CATF can play a vital role in making sure that those lines of communication with the community and the city continue. So those are going to be our takeaway asks. And I want to get, before he joins, I want to get your feedback to see if there's anything that we're missing or any comments that you might have. One other thing, in order to level set, the focus of tonight's conversation is specifically Arrowhead Gateway, the Healthy Hartford Hub, and the CATF and San Juan Center's involvement with regards to the grocery store and the 4 pillars. We don't have much time. If there are other things that need to be raised or addressed, we will develop or create the opportunity to do that. So with that said, is there any feedback, input, comments on the things that you see before you in terms of asks for Mayor Bronin?
Denise, can I ask, you didn't mention anything about Kristen, and I don't think she's here. Is she going to talk about the overlay?
Thank you, Rex. Yes, she is.
Okay.
Her class ends at, I believe, 7. She's going to end it. Kristen is teaching tonight. She's going to release her students a little bit early, as she'll be logging in shortly.
Great.
So, Danny, yes. if you would. I guess I'll read it for the people that are on the phone, just in case, if you don't mind. All right, so the first ask is, will you commit to continuation of the support that we've received from the city's planning staff toward finalizing the description of the proposed healthy overlay district? And will you help secure the necessary approvals from the city? We'll address that after Kristen finishes her presentation. Will you be supportive of the Healthy Hartford Hub and the efforts to secure a full-service supermarket on the Arrowhead block, including identifying needed financial resources to make sure that that happens? Will you consider, or we ask that you consider, appointing a key person in your administration to participate in regular CATF meetings and help us move the project forward to completion? One of the things that we're concerned about is that there was a commitment from the city in December to implement all the recommendations from the Arrowhead Gateway planning study. And from what I can see, there's been little, if anything, done. So we want to revisit that and make sure that we engage in a dynamic and robust way while the development is taking place in so many other places. And then we want to make sure that the city is fully supportive of the San Juan Center's Arrowhead Gateway master plan, but also Fernando, I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'll wait. And I think that that's it for now. I solicit your feedback while we have a few minutes.
It would be great to have a city person at these meetings. Really good.
Yeah.
Did you get a call from Owen Dooch? He's planning another community meeting about that Arrowhead development area.
Yes, we're gonna meet with him like next week, I think on Wednesday. And he sent us a Zoom link if we want to invite more people. So whoever wants to come out, I can forward that.
Yeah, okay, I think you should send it to everybody.
Danny, do you have a time? Do you know a time for that?
One moment.
And I'm curious, did anyone go? I know that the city hosted, Owen's from the planning department for folks who don't know who he is. And they hosted something a few weeks ago to talk about the Arrowhead block development, I think. Fernando,
Yes.
maybe you were.
It was.
So
It was
San Juan
not that-
Center was there, and
Yes.
there was also the chair of Clay Arsenal, and then from CATF. Now, San Juan Center was there as a partner because Carabetta was there in the city. They were talking about the project. They invited the community, and hence myself, Danny, and Louisa attended. Fernando, would you like to say more about that?
Well, just that we were present, but it was not that well attended, at least for our expectations. And again, I think that we need to make a better effort connecting with the people in the community to let them know what is expected, because people don't go to these meetings just because you said, hey, could you join to a feedback section on, they don't even understand what Arrowhead is. So but that's self-criticism, it's like we need to do more in that regard.
And I think that this type of what we're doing tonight is a big start in that direction, because the CATF, we've been able to get the city to actually consider developing a plan and engaging all of the city officials in the various community organizations, many of whom are involved in the Ascend pipeline. And so we want to be able to assist the mayor-elect in doing just that, developing ways to communicate and connect with the community members, because we've shown that we know how to do it. And with his support, we'll be able to be even more effective in that area. So that's really something that I think you know, we, first of all, we're excited that he actually made time on his schedule to come, because that's not necessarily a given, right? And then the other is that his platform aligns with our vision. And so this should be really good for the Hartford. Not to cast any disparaging comments on our outgoing mayor, because he has been a champion behind the scenes. And there are many, many things that Mayor Bronin has done on our behalf that were not publicized, but we're definitely at this juncture because of his support. And I don't mean to belittle that in any way. I believe there are some chat messages in the chat. I saw some things popping up, but
Yes, I just wanted to share that the date is Wednesday, 11/22 at 1:30 p.m. So he's going to send us a Zoom link and I will forward that.
one of the other things that is on our radar is the mobility study. CATF members, we want to make sure that you're aware of the that the state is making plans to address the intersection, and we're not confident that the planners at the state level are communicating with the city or the community.
Rex, have you ever heard from the state pertaining that rotary concept around the Arrowhead or above?
I attended one of their recent house meetings they had in the North End to discuss kind of the input they'd gotten from community members and what their concepts were. They didn't have anything indicated on the plans that they shared at that meeting about the intersection. And I specifically asked Kevin Burnham, who used to be at the city, who's now at the state, kind of a lead on this project, said there's a number of designs kind of in the works, behind the scenes, but they weren't ready to share any yet. And I said, we've kind of been hearing that same thing for about 5 or 6 years now. It'd be nice if they would actually share something with the community and move it toward implementation. So it doesn't seem like it's a priority. So I bet, that might be something to bring up tonight if we have time with the mayor-elect, is can he help us kind of move the mobility study plans to deal with that intersection?
Well, when we talked to Owen, we made it clear to him that we view that opportunity to address the traffic flow as an integral part of the success of the overall development, and that collaboration needs to take place. That's not a wish, that's an ask. And what we don't want is to find out after they've set the budget and set the schedule that what is being planned is not conducive to the successful development in the Arrowhead Gateway. So maybe that is an opportunity, or let me say it another way. Wednesday with Owen is an opportunity to address that. And as you say, Rex, if we have time, we'll certainly mention that to the mayor this evening. Kristen will be joining us at 7. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. Does everybody know that the city settled with the former developer of the why are you laughing?
That's kind of important.
Well,
Martha said that's kind of important. Fernando, why are you chuckling? You're making me nervous.
It's like there was this novel written by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is about the death that was supposed to happen, and everybody knew except the person that was going to die. And it looks like this settlement was inevitable. Let me put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's more cost effective to settle than to continue to pay the attorneys. And you know, as a matter of final housekeeping, the mayor, you know, pushed it through. Thank him for that. And I think, you know, the fact that the former developers were able to actually make the case, and on a technicality, by the way, to have the another day in court, they're walking away with more money than they would have otherwise. So it's a win-win for all of us, except for those of us that have to come up with the almost 10 million.
And Denise, if I can just add that since that settlement, the potential supermarket operator interested in the project and the mayor have been in several conversations. And so the operator has been much more engaged since the settlement for the land where the potential supermarket would be located has been resolved. So it was very, very good news.
It is cause to celebrate. We were perfectly willing to ride it out until the end, but this is better. We can, you know, move forward. And Fernando, I know that you were talking, we talked about in the meeting that we had with the city planner about some signage or something to let folks know that things are coming. And once they start, you know, breaking ground in the various areas, I
the
think
signage is coming. Actually, we ordered it 2 days ago, and you will see it in that corner very, very soon.
So I'm going back to the mobility study, and I'm very concerned that the State Department of Transportation does not feel, or this is my impression, it may not be accurate. I get the impression that the State Department of Transportation feels that they can dictate to municipalities what the streetscape is going to be. And
not only that, they have taken this attitude on other projects. To give you an example, when you participate on the Frog Hollow NRC and they make their presentations, and this is pertaining for the future plan of I-84, which is much more costly. We have supported in that area a different model that coincides somewhat with what Congressman John Larson has been advocating. And however, the state is kind of opposed to it. So like Rex was expressing just shortly ago, several years pass by and then there's no movement. So that's very discouraging for the people who participate from the community, one way or the other.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Fernando. Arunan has arrived, so I'm ready to let him in.
please do.
Thank you.
Fernando, I want to follow up with you on that
Yes.
more specifically.
And I don't mind being interrupted by the future mayor.
I hope I'm not interrupting.
No, this is
no.
jump right in. The water's fine.
Yeah.
Welcome. We're so glad that you're able to accept our invitation this evening. So many of the people here, I think you do know, and for those that you have not yet met, we are the community volunteer members of the Healthy Hartford Hub Community Action Task Force and the organizational representatives that are that were the impetus in forming what was originally a focus group, then became an advisory group, and is now the Community Action Task Force. We're excited to welcome you as our incoming mayor. Our Your Rise, Rebuild, and Reimagine platform aligns perfectly with our vision, and we're excited about doing great things together in the city of Hartford. So, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
With that being said, we're going to, if you have any questions or comments, jump right in, right? Because we're very informal. So,
Okay.
What we're looking for, and as you may know, the Healthy Hartford Hub Community Action Task Force is a place-specific initiative formed around obtaining or securing a full-service grocery store, health promoting services, small business development, and owner-occupied affordable homes in the Arrowhead Gateway area. And I'm sure you've met Fernando Bedencount, who is the executive director of San Juan Center.
Yep.
And we have all these many years been working very closely together. But as I mentioned earlier, Fernando was there when we got there. But fortunately, and I'm sure that you have seen this, common sense doesn't really take rocket science. It's just common sense to do the things that we're doing. And so our first goal is to ask you to commit to continue the support that the city planning staff has had toward finalizing the proposed overlay district. And would you help secure the necessary funds from the city? We're going to give you more detail as we go forward. Let's go to the next slide. We're interested in securing your support for the Healthy Hartford Hub and our efforts to secure a full service grocery store in the Arrowhead block. And as mayor, helping to identify the needed financial resources to make that happen. I was saying before you joined us that the outgoing mayor has been our champion, very frequently, quietly, and behind the scenes. But we are very appreciative of the work that he has done on our behalf so far, and we recognize his powerful influence in getting us to this point. Next slide, please, Danny. One of our major asks is that a key person from your administration join us on regular meetings. There are so many moving parts. When you joined us, we were talking about the mobility study and the plans that the state may or may not have that align with the vision that we have for our neighborhood. In the different city departments, it would be great to have a point person who could liaise with us in that area. And then the next slide, please, Danny. I mentioned San Juan Center and the development that's taking place as part of the Arrowhead Master Plan. San Juan Center has been doing phenomenal work over the years. Fernando's going to talk a little bit more about what the San Juan Center is doing as we go forward, but we want you to know that we are fully supportive of the work that's being done, and we view ourselves as partners. We're actually, and I'm going to stop there. Next slide, please. So keep going, Danny. I want to just show you the video, and then we can talk a little bit about the things that got us here, if you don't mind. Healthy Hartford Hub is an initiative created by some of Hartford's anchor institutions and committed community members to bring lasting social change to the north side of Hartford. We're focused primarily in the Arrowhead Gateway area, which is a plot of land that sat derelict for about 20-30 years. It was blighted. There were some families that lived there, but for the most part, it was abandoned buildings. And we envision a full-service grocery store, small businesses, Black and Brown owned businesses, brownstones, owner-occupied rental units, and a community center that offers health promoting services.
It's going to be multi-use development with an anchor grocery store. We are identifying operators for this grocery store right now. The community has spoken on what kind of grocery store they wanted. We are very vigilant about making sure we know what the community needs, because that's the way that you're going to combat this. Really, stronger communities create healthier families, which also creates more opportunities for economic development, small business.
So we need the Healthy Hartford Hub because we're in a community where there's a lack of access to nutritious foods, to adequate health care, and to services that really are health promoting in our community. And that's really borne out by the most recent study that showed the 15-year gap between average life expectancy between residents that live in the north end of Hartford and our suburban neighbor to the west, West Hartford.
We did some work with the community and they talked a lot about wanting a grocery store. So as we built the collaborative, we had this initiative around the grocery store and involved a collection of players in that to move it forward. And then when it got to the point where there was a need for capital and they were really kind of identified a spot, and then the city was on board and the Community Development Finance Institution was working with us to sort of make sure we had what they call the capital stack, which is what you need to make a development project go forward. We were able to put Trinity's money into that capital stack.
The Community Action Task Force started off as the Community Advisory Task Force for the Healthy Hartford Hub. And by design, the supporting institutions stepped back as they built capacity for neighborhood residents to take leadership. So the Community Action Task Force is actually the voice of the residents to talk to the decision makers within the city, state, and the supporting institutions, organizations, to make sure that what we get is what we actually need and want.
So the city has had several roles in terms of different departments working on this. We've had our Development Services Department, which is around economic development. They've been intimately involved with the CATF and that work. And then on my end has been really about how can I, as the health department and the work that we're doing at the health department, support the effort? So if we're going to have a hub and we're going to have a supermarket, could we co-locate our WIC program there as well to be able to provide services on site and work with community members on how to make the best use out of their WIC dollars?
A number of learnings. So first is that, the ability to really have, a shared vision. Whether you're a hospital or whether you're the Hartford Community Loan Fund or the United Way or the mayor, everyone is going to benefit ultimately from a healthier Hartford. Benefit in different ways, but there is some shared benefit in it. And of course the residents, have the greatest benefit because this is their community and their neighborhood. So the first is really to how do you find your way to that shared interest in a way that's enduring, that you can navigate those twists and turns as they occur. The other thing for me personally is that the Healthy Hartford Hub, and in particular the way the Community Action Task Force is operated, has shown me how important it is for residents to be good citizens and to participate in local democratic processes, to actually move policy forward, to talk to the local legislators, to partner with the local institutions.
And I do have a dream for a better North Hartford, if you will, with us bringing our collective energies together, that we can create something that's welcoming and sustainable, where I hesitate to use the word love, right? But it's a loving space, right? And then creativity manifests and productivity manifests, and people, rather than leaving Hartford in order to become successful, are successful in Hartford, and that cycle will begin to perpetuate itself. Thank you, Danny, and thank you for our Wellville partners for that video. So by way of background, is it premature to call you mayor?
Mayor Elect, I guess.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
I'll stick with the program. We are, as mentioned in the video, a group of community members who believe that community is Hartford's strongest asset. The work of the CATF is really to be the voice of the residents in ways that, you know, Fernando was talking about it earlier, you know, people who are, those of us who are focused on just living our day-to-day lives rely on advocates to make sure that needed information, that needed resource are brought to our attention, because other than that, it's really just getting the kids to school on time and getting to work on time. And let's not talk about how to get groceries to your house right now, right? So what we're focused on in terms of the Healthy Hartford Hub Community Action Task Force is to make sure that there is continuing dialogue. We're very actively involved in making sure that the business as usual norm of separate organizations working separately doesn't continue, because if that worked, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in. So we see ourselves as able to pivot, if you will, or build connections or bridge gaps where they exist, and continue to do that consistently because we're committed to improving the lives of our neighbors. And we can go to the next slide, Danny. Okay, so those of so this building sat in the Arrowhead Gateway area for decades, and it looked exactly like this. Anybody coming from North Hartford to downtown Hartford, or to get on the highway, or coming into Hartford from the highway to go through to one of our suburban neighbors, saw this building, which really represented, for those of us who live in North Hartford, the wall that existed between the commerce and activity and growth within the city of Hartford and what was happening, the marginalization of North Hartford. That in the highway really defined our vision in terms of what our city, what our neighborhoods, the worth of our neighborhoods, and then by extension, our own personal worth. So a lot of people call it an old factory building. It used to be a department store. If I said to my neighbors, you know, the butt ugly building, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Because that's right, Fernando? That's what we called it. All right. So imagine living in a neighborhood where the city's, I won't say it again, was facing you. And that's why we're so passionate about bringing a life-changing change to the Arrowhead Gateway area, because next slide, please, Danny. We view it as the gateway to North Hartford. So I know you're familiar with the plot of land. I want to go to the next slide. I was actually, yes. So rather than looking at the fill in the blank ugly building, and as a reminder, when the city when the city selected several sites to explore for possible grocery stores, this section of the city was deemed to be the most viable to support a full service grocery store because of the various ways to get there. Not only that, considering that over 40% of North Hartford residents do not own cars, the majority of the people who are shopping for food for their families are taking multiple bus rides to get to a suburban grocery store and multiple bus rides to get home. So when we talk about, in order to have a healthy lifestyle, you have to have access to healthy and affordable food. If you're going to a grocery store once or twice a month on a bus ride that takes you 2 hours one way, possibly with small children in tow, you're not buying perishables. You're not buying healthy food. You're buying those things with preservatives and long shelf life. So this is one of the reasons why it's so critical that the grocery store be in this area. And let me segue for a minute. It doesn't mean that the multiple millions of dollars that are going to our suburban neighbors in their tax base, this does not mean that Hartford can only support one grocery store, but this is the anchor to begin the process. And the original site for the grocery store was where the stadium is now. And fortunately for us, the current developer is in agreement that a grocery store in that area would be best for the city. Do you have any comments or questions before I move on?
No, and I I agree with everything that's been said so far. But yeah, keep going, and I'll comment at the end.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next slide, please, Danny. So this represents city-owned properties. And we were instrumental in making sure that the city took the time to, one, take possession of those derelict properties so that they couldn't be sold off to the highest speculator, and two, to make sure that there was a plan put in place that was reflective of the city's of the residents' wishes and desires and needs, hence the Bergman report, right? So what we want to make sure, and I've been corrected by my colleagues several times, we're not opposed to gentrification. We're just opposed to displacement through gentrification. Everybody, rising tide lifts all boats. And so what's good for the Arrowhead Gateway is good for North Hartford. But we want to make sure that the North Hartford residents whose how should I say, you'll remember the conversation where the developers were coming in and they decided to call North Hartford Dono, right? Okay, I do know. It's not that I don't know. We don't call this don't know. This is, I'm sorry. I could riff on that, but I won't. This is the Arrowhead Gateway area specifically because, I take it personally. I know it's named after the Arrowhead Cafe, but also for me personally, it recognizes the contribution of the original peoples who lived here. And it is a gateway to the entire north side of Hartford, engaging with the rest of the city. Could you go to the next slide, please? So this is our vision for the area. And you'll see the, of course, it's in draft, but we've talked with San Juan Center. We've shared it with community members and with the developers. And this looks like the closest thing currently to what would be most conducive for the well-being of North Hartford, but also to engage the rest of the city. One of the key elements is the back of the grocery store won't be facing North Hartford. Okay, next slide, please. And this would be street level with small businesses. And you can see it goes all the way. When you come out on the other side, you're pretty much facing the Kinney Park clock tower. And wouldn't that be a lovely place to spend a summer afternoon? Mm-hmm. Okay, next slide, please, Danny. So we've been busy. And even when we had lulls in funding or lulls in activity in terms of waiting for decisions to be made or processes to be played out, the CATF has been consistent in pursuing the successful completion of the Arrowhead Gateway project. We are, again, focused on full service grocery store. Our founding or convening organizations in response to the Promise Zone initiative, came together to work together and poll the neighborhood residents as to what they would like to see with regards to addressing the health disparities. And the thinking at that time was that what kind of clinical services can we provide? And that's when the focus group members, precursors to the CATF, said, we don't need more clinical services. We need a grocery store. And when we talk about health promoting services, let's talk about family life training center opportunity activities that help us circumvent the more severe issues. For example, when the grocery store is established, we're going to be having cooking classes and parenting classes and self-care classes, so that we don't have to necessarily call the police for a domestic violence call, that folks have actually learned how to deal with the everyday stresses in a way that's more helpful. So all of these things are on our radar. We know that in order to have safe neighborhoods, you need to have people who own the properties living there, right? And more often than not, the best way to do that is to have them be owner-occupied, revenue-producing properties, right? And then folks need to have a livable wage. And so supporting entrepreneurship, and even with the grocery store, having the operator and any other businesses that are established commit to providing wages that will support an individual and their families. So those are the 4 pillars, if you will, of the Healthy Hartford Hub in terms of what our focus is. And that can be replicated time and time again. But for right now, we're specifically dealing with the Arrowhead Gateway area. Danny, if you would go to the next slide. I think I've talked enough about that. We can just move on. And we'll come back to that. And if you would go ahead and go to the next slide. Fernando, you are up.
Well, I won't take too long. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. You probably recall that about 1 or 2 months ago, when I was reporting last, I was reporting on the progress that we're making in this Arrowhead development. And today, I am even more excited because several pieces are coming into place. To give you an idea, literally this afternoon, Liberty Bank approved by committee the purchase of the $2.5 million projected revenue from the federal historical tax credits. And talking about the federal as well as the state historical tax credits, you might recall that the San Juan Center several months ago purchased the co-op, which is part of the entire Arrowhead project. And when we did that, we applied for Part 1 and Part 2 for the state and federal historical tax credits, and both have been approved. We are waiting from the federal government, the Park Services Division, to approve the other 2, which is the Arrowhead Cafe building and the Flatiron building. And we expect that because the state approved already Parts 1 and Part 2, that probably around 2 more weeks, we will have the full approval. So there's a lot of progress being made in that regard. Obviously, we dealt with the challenges inherent to this type of projects. I mentioned to you that unbeknownst to us, there was cleaners operating in one of those buildings from 1942 to 1968. And obviously, that requires some environmental cleanup. And I'm glad to report that both proposals dealing with that and the other building, the Flatiron building, who had a former gas station in the 60s and 40s, and have been approved by the state. So now we are in the brownfield program, and the progress is being, you know, achieved as we speak. So I think that even though with all those challenges, we're trying to push the envelope as much as we can, and by that I will project that we can probably do the final closing late December or early January, and we are in a position to start literally the next day. Something that I will reveal here, but I'm not announcing it. The San Juan Center purchased the adjacent parcel that is known as El Pocito Dulce. That's the other corner. So, and we have proposed a development there to the city. And I think that during the 18 months that will take to develop this Arrowhead project, we will be using that stage for crane operations, truck operations, the offices for the day-to-day supervision of the progress and the construction phase. So I think that I don't want to bore you with so many more details, but overall, it's progressing as we expected, and we're ready to rumble.
That is excellent news. Are you going to mention the museum at all today?
Well, it's not about the museum anymore because the task force came with recommendations for the city, and the city put together an RFP that is due now because it was postponed to December 4th. And the idea is that in the former property known as the Sacred Heart Church, where the San Juan Center was created in 1957 in the basement, there's the idea of developing a Puerto Rican cultural center. Is going to be much more complex than that. It's not going to be just a gathering place to do quinceañeras, parties, or play dominoes. We have a different vision, but again, it's a competitive process. The city has decided to do it by phases. They will retain ownership, and they have assigned around $500,000 for that project. And perhaps the San Juan Center will be responding to that, and we will submit a proposal. But the first phase is only for the planning process. Then the second and third phase would be to join, perhaps in partnership with the city, and select who the operator will be. And our vision is a larger vision, is one that includes a curriculum base for the entire school system in Hartford that we are developing, a scholars in residence component with the University of Puerto Rico, UConn. And again, I don't want to give you too much more details because that will be incorporated in our proposal. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the four pillars of this entity, the San Juan Center is working on several of them. Yes. And Mayor Elect Arulampalam knows that we are now working on 41 Center Street on the restoring of a historical house. And we were successful in attracting a CHFA grant of $288,000. And that would be the San Juan Center's first home ownership. And I know that Denise, you have passion for this, our first home ownership initiative among 50 more that we want to do in the Clay Arsenal. So I call it there because I know I will be respectful of the time for everybody.
These are exciting times, and congratulations on your progress.
Thank you.
Okay. Were you going to say something, Mayor-elect?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll kind of respond to all of it unless you have more that you want to get.
Actually, we do.
Okay.
Professor Kristen Cooksey Stowers has been an integral part of our work through the UConn Rudd Center, and her research has been her data collection and the way that she shares her research has been one of the foundations that we've stood on and able to get us to this point. So Kristen has some things to say with regards to our desire for the health overlay district. And Kristen, I don't see.
Thank you, Denise. I'm working to share my screen. Good evening, Mayor Elect. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on tonight. See if Zoom will cooperate. I'm getting an error right now. I don't know if see, maybe for the sake of time, if we want to start. Do we want to maybe discuss the first part? I can troubleshoot with Danny just for the sake of time. Maybe send it slides to her. I'm getting an error.
I was muted, sorry. Mayor-elect, based on what you've heard so far, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, you guys are hitting on a lot of issues that are near and dear to my heart. Obviously, home ownership is something that I have invested in heavily at the land bank, and made sure as a part of our mission in ways that have kind of at times gotten some pushback and kind of gone against the orthodoxy of what land banks have been set up to do. But I believe strongly in creating pathways for wealth generation, especially for Black and brown families, and especially in North Hartford. And I think, I'm really excited to hear that that's a piece of one of your pillars. And the intersection of health and food as a social determinant of health is something that I care deeply about. And I've begun this transition team. Tomorrow we have the first meeting of our transition team, and one of our subject areas is public health, and probably half the members of that public health committee, or at least close to it, are food policy people. Because I think when we talk about what we can be doing as a city to move the needle on the social determinants of health, and to impact the 14 years that gets taken off of the lives of Hartford residents who live in North Hartford, just by virtue of their zip code. Food is a huge piece of that for our general kind of healthy lifestyles, but specifically food. And there are a whole host of ways in which I hope to address that in my administration. And I've talked about trying to create a kind of food policy czar position within the city of Hartford, a single person that can coordinate food policy and improve food options across our neighborhoods, to both working with our school system to create better food options within our schools and create education around food within our schools, and healthy eating and preparation of food, to work on growing food here in Hartford. And the land bank has actually been working with some urban farmers who are taking over plots. One of them on Clark Street in North Hartford. Actually, we'd initially proposed two in North Hartford, and one of them was ran into some issues with P&Z, but one will be going ahead on Clark Street, and one in the south end on Benton Street, to allow for residents of the city of Hartford, from the city of Hartford, who are creating businesses and growing healthy foods within our city. We've explored with the Kinney Park Sustainability Project a small sliding scale grocery store, certainly nothing like a full scale supermarket, but a smaller food option in North Hartford. I hope that a food policy person at the city would also look at how we can improve food options. And I know that Hartford Healthcare has done some work on this, but improve food options in the C towns and the Bravos and the bodegas that are already in our neighborhoods. But all of those, I think we need a whole food ecosystem. And clearly the tip of the spear on that kind of an ecosystem is a full scale grocery store. And so it's something that I'm absolutely committed to, something I will do everything to support in whatever ways I can. And, Denise, you mentioned this, and I want to make this point. I think Hartford and even North Hartford can support more than one grocery store. If you look at our neighbors in West Hartford, they've got 7 grocery stores, and they're half our size. So on a per capita basis, the notion to me that we can only support 1/14 as many grocery stores as West Hartford can seems just mathematically wrong. And I think that you're absolutely right that this is a really good location, probably the best location and the location that would serve the most residents in North Hartford, given the bus routes, and it's something that I'm very committed to helping push along as mayor.
I appreciate that very much. We appreciate hearing that very much. One concern, however, is the length of time that it's taken us to entice an operator to the area. Common sense, nobody's going to invest in an area that looks like what it did when the ugly building was standing. And so it's been a work in progress. But the Hartford Community Loan Fund and others were able to secure some state funding that has been held in escrow for us, which is just part of the funding that we need in order to make it profitable for an operator to come. And so we need that support. Everybody else has met me before, so I'm just going to be myself, right? Being crabs in a barrel is not the way to improve your community. And we've really got to fight against the tendency to think that the only way for any of us to rise is to get a bigger piece of this small pie. By working together, we can definitely raise the bar and improve the quality of life in the city. But we need leadership and support at the governmental level to make sure that we don't have to watch our back while we push forward. I think Kristen's ready. Kristen? Don't want
Yes,
to,
thank you.
in the interest of time, I want to keep going forward. I think you've hit on several key points, Mayor-elect, and one is, the dearth of reasonable options for the people who live in the city, and how some of the health disparities that we are confronted with by virtue of our zip code are simply because we don't have the resources that most people take for granted. And so I don't think it's heavy lifting for us to combine our efforts. Yourself, San Juan Center, Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, the Food Policy Commission, Wellville, UConn, all of those folks working together. And as Jennifer mentioned earlier, the people that are involved with the Ascend Pipeline and other initiatives, as we continue to collaborate, we're going to make long-lasting, sustainable change in our city. I'm just excited to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing with the right people. Dr. Stowers, are you ready?
And my sincerest apologies. Technology is not my friend tonight. Okay. All right. Is it okay to go ahead and jump in, Denise?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Again, Mayor-elect. And I was asked by the CATF to build on the excellent points that have already been made and tell you a bit about our evidence-based and data-driven approaches to support the CATF in building capacity and empirical data to understand the best way to proceed with solutions for North Hartford. So as Denise has mentioned, I've been working with the CATF and what is called the Invest Health Hartford team, which includes anchor institutions for the last almost 7 years, doing research and partnership with these institutions and with the CATF to address health equity for the North Hartford Promise Zone, particularly around community-based resident-driven efforts. I just wanted to sort of briefly highlight, just as a resource, this tool. I know in a lot of meetings, increasingly we're talking about community engagement, and I think it's just important to sort of ground the conversation in community engagement being a spectrum, and it's not binary. It's not all or nothing. And I think that, there are tools out there to help guide us in making some of the decision-making processes around the Arrowhead Gateway project, but also more broadly in Hartford, where it's authentically engaging the community. And I think as I've worked with the CATF, which I'll tell you a bit more in a bit, Denise and Danny and others from the CATF on this call are really progressing and pushing all of us to the highest level of community engagement, at the delegating power and really creating community-owned processes. And so we've had these moments of breakthrough, as Denise shared in her sort of history of the CATF, moving from the community advisory task force to the community action task force was a pivotal moment. And now we're working together now again to proceed to community ownership in these processes. So I won't talk much here, but we know that the North Hartford community was designated as a promise zone, and we identified, in addition to the North Hartford promise zone, we identified 3 additional Hartford neighborhoods: Asylum Hill, Frog Hollow, and Berry Square, as comparison sites, if you will, to strengthen some of the Invest Health funded work that found shopping, or that focused on food shopping habits back in 2018. I don't know if you're familiar with that report, but there's a food shopping habits report we'd be happy to share after the call that really showed that we cite often as one of the initial sparks of we need a store. There's a lot of SNAP dollars bleeding out. But as a researcher, it was clear that some of the methods around that allowed for non-Hartford residents to respond. And it was also a bit difficult to figure out what we were comparing the North Hartford shopping habits to. So that was the purpose of adding these additional comparison sites shaded in blue. As you know, there's been a ton going on. And so just to brag even more on the CATF and their advocacy and involvement, the CATF was represented on some of the hearings around the resolution pertaining to addressing food deserts in the North Hartford Promise Zone. They're in deep partnership with LISC and others, having conversations around housing and things of that nature. And again, my role has been to add data collection and evidence-driven approaches to sort of drive the design of solutions. More specifically, the main buckets of work that we've done together include a comprehensive food swamp audit
in all three North Hartford Promise Zone sites, as well as the other three communities that I mentioned. And by comprehensive, we mean every food store in the community. We audited, we got addresses, we took pictures, we assessed the marketing. We even have information about the equity and pricing. And we did that in 2021 amid the pandemic, and are actually just wrapping up a repeat of that now this month. We also ran a resident survey to build upon the 2018 food shopping habits report that I mentioned, gathering more data on, first, importantly, what do residents think about their food environment? What do they want to see done about it? What is the level of food insecurity in the community? Because the earlier data showed that it was much higher than expected. There obviously folks anticipated being high, but the disparities were much higher than anticipated. We also worked together to conduct a photo voice project where pictures are the data. And so North Hartford residents spent several days taking pictures of their neighborhoods and their food environment in particular, and sharing their experiences navigating the food environment to feed their families on a regular basis. And importantly, the method is not about documenting problems, it's about driving solutions. So we have a lot of data on what residents see as the vision for the future. What do they want to see instead? And the last piece is in Hartford Health Equity and Health Policy Audit, where I led a team where we conducted almost 30 key stakeholder interviews, not just food related, but across the social determinants of health, folks in the hospital realm, folks working on wages, folks working in education, to get a sense of where is Hartford in terms of advancing health equity, what are the areas of opportunity. These are pictures from the food store audit, just to share more details about how nuanced the information that we have, that we've been mapping and assessing. Again, it was a very almost Google Map style assessment. The point of the exercise was to work with the CATF to put together these neighborhood level reports for equity in the food environment. So we, on the screen, several folks on the call were part of co-designing what we call our one-pagers. We have this North Hartford wide assessment of food equity in the food environment. The blue shades show what's called food swamp exposure. If you're not familiar with the term, it builds upon food deserts to talk about balance in the food area. And they were provided in English and Spanish. As I said, co-designed with many folks on this call. And a quick shout out to Louisa, who provided us with this messaging around to have quality of life. We must have quality food. That was a very exciting moment together on one of those late night calls. And so this is what we have, these for the North Hartford Promise Zone, but for also each individual North Hartford site. I wanted to highlight just a few key themes that came out of the Photo Voice project. So again, I mentioned that with Photo Voice, pictures are the data. The residents tell their stories, and also they told us what meaning to make of it via annotation in the app. We heard about access to food outlets being a concern, obviously. But I think what really struck me and others as we've unpacked this is just the feeling of frustration and disappointment from seeing time and time again stores, options for stores being announced. And in this case, there was a grand opening sign and folks were watching that for a year, paying for a lease, and then it turned into something else. We also heard about transportation as a relevant aspect of this work. This person spoke about parking issues, which I was a part of the Bergman meetings and conversations. Parking came up a lot as a barrier for folks wanting to shop in Hartford. And the person says, I guess they think that people in the urban communities are going to steal all of their shopping carts, which speaks to just areas of opportunity to build more dignified shopping experiences.
the last thing I want to highlight here was that we heard a lot about assets, and that's been a reoccurring theme that we've talked about with the CATF. We have lots of data and quotes about folks just wanting to see more of the good, that document a lot of assets and things and resilience of people and stores that have played key roles, but wanted to see more of those assets invested in and expanded. And the Chrysalis Center is one of those assets that was mentioned. Just briefly, this is a picture from an event that many of us were a part of, that the CATF spearheaded September of last year. This is a gallery walk. So the data that we have collected together over the last several years was showcased in the form of a art gallery. And as you probably can recognize, it's at City Hall. The mayor attended, and the idea was to activate change and to promote conversation, which we had great conversation at that event. Danny is the lead and will be sort of giving us the green light on when the photo voice report will be out, because one thing that was really inspiring and cool was that several city council folks approached the CATF and myself about how can we sort of get a printed copy of that photo voice report, so that as folks are having conversations and thinking about solutions, they have that sort of handy, because again, there's a huge portion of it that is focused on solutions. As I wrap up here, these are a few policy wins in particular for the CATF. This time last year, November to December of last year, the CATF, myself and Martha Page, I believe, who was on the call, was approached by the former zoning commissioner to solicit feedback on the actual definition of a grocery store for the city. And so we spent some time looking at that, saw that that it was a bit too comprehensive in terms of finding an opportunity to tighten it up so that the standard and bar for what could constitute a grocery store for the city could be heightened in a way that would promote equity and in a way that would match what residents have told us in terms of what they see as a store and what they want to see more of. We also had submitted a healthy overlay district recommendation. The screenshot here is the Bergen report. If you've have seen it, it's very long. So this is just a screenshot the specific aspect that we were a part of, which was the policy bundle. Our argument was that a development plan without a policy bundle would leave a lot of room for inequities to be made worse over time. And so it was really, I think, a policy win for this group to see that proposal for a policy bundle included in that Bergen report. So the last thing I'll wrap up is just to give you some more details on what our Hartford Healthy Overlay District proposal entails. It has 8 key components. First, it includes the staple food ordinance, which is actually already on the books in Hartford, but as we've discussed as a collective and with the CATF, is that it needs teeth. It's not been implemented or enforced. And the good news is that there's lots of precedent in other cities like Minneapolis, where which was our staple food ordinance was actually adopted. And I guess just in terms of language, the staple food ordinance means it's just stocking standards for the small food retail. So it gives some guidance and guidelines for what should be shelved. And the idea is to use this tool to encourage smaller grocers and smaller food retailers to offer more fresh produce and things of that nature. So that is one key component of the proposal. The other components include dollar store bans or restrictions. That is definitely a national conversation. Dollar stores came up a lot in terms of the survey data, which for sake of time, I'm not able to delve into tonight, but would be happy to have a part 2 or to share that data with you, that in certain pockets of Hartford, reliance on dollar stores for regular grocery shopping is the highest source, which is quite a concern. And the photo voice pictures certainly add nuance to why that would be an issue. The fourth component is entrepreneurial opportunities for small business and wealth, which Denise keyed up a bit ago, because we believe that that addressing wealth inequity is part of it, as a very important part per the pillars that Denise shared. The fifth component are more incentives for supermarkets and other healthy food retailers. Obviously, that is a big part of what's being discussed in Hartford, but this is just to say that there are lots of models for where this has worked in other cities that we can pull from to incentivize an operator. Apologies. Number 6 is subsidies for healthy food retailers to keep costs down, because the evaluations from other cities shows that getting the store there is the first win. The next issue will be to maintain costs so that the community doesn't perceive it as still being inaccessible because it's too expensive, which is, we know, an important matter for North Hartford and Hartford in general. The seventh component involves transit-oriented design. The CATF has hosted the state, the Department of Transport, as they've been working on their transit plan. I've had some follow-up conversations with them, showing them Hartford food desert and food swamp maps, and how the bus lines intersect, and in some cases don't. And how that matters for food access. And so we have data showing that the North Hartford residents that are not near, that do not have car ownership and are relying on the bus, have far higher frequency at unhealthy food retail and eat more unhealthy foods and beverages. The last component of the Healthy Overlay District Plan is regarding process. It's very, it's been a core tenet of this group to promote equity in how we work together, as well as what we're working on. And so in any way to include authentic resident engagement, especially with a group as experienced and as committed as the CATF into decision-making processes, the better. And this is just to highlight that there are great case studies of other cities who have embedded community action advisory boards to mayors, to public health departments, and it is a really strong evidence-based strategy to make sure that is a consistent voice with folks with lived experience in that geographic area. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. What next? That's the question. We've got lots of good information, lots of great things going on within our city, and Mayor-elect, this is an exciting time, not only for you, but for us. Lots of opportunities to collaborate and move forward. We want to let you know that we are here to help, and hope that you call upon us in whatever capacity you feel that we would be supportive. We're not going anywhere. We've been doing this for a long time. We're committed to the well-being of our city, and we view you as a partner in that process, and we want to be supportive of you in that process.
No, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the work you guys have been doing, and I hope that this is a real partnership going forward. Thank you for all of those presentations, and I hope, if possible, I'd love to get some of those slide decks as well to show some of my team on the way in the office as we build that out. And Dr. Sowers specifically, with that spectrum of community involvement, I think was really, really interesting, and I'd love to take a look at that slide and down, at some point down the road, and build that into kind of what we do at City Hall, because that's a big part of what I think is the core of the opportunity we have in this city, is to make every resident feel empowered and a part of the process, and not just a part of the process, but leading and guiding that process, and communicating to City Hall the ways in which they need City Hall to partner with them. And so that's exactly what this group is doing, and And I'm not surprised given the people who are here at the table, the virtual table. But I really appreciate you guys giving me all this information, and you know, I fully plan to be involved and would love to, you know, still figuring out staff and what that looks like, but would love to find some sort of point person who could try to regularly be in these meetings as well.
And it is so. All right. If you don't have any more questions for us, I think our clock is steadily ticking. Does anyone have any comments they want to share before we go?
Just to you, Madam Chair, just to follow up with a concrete commitment from the mayor-elect to have someone from the administration to be participating with this group, because I think that will permeate and facilitate the conversation down the line.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what our staff would look like, but I would very much like to have somebody from my staff in this group. Thank you. Thanks for the link. I'd very much like to have somebody from my staff in this group on a regular basis as we go down the line.
I'm very gratified to hear that. You know, we were talking earlier about how sometimes when you're doing this kind of work, it feels like you're doing heavy lifting. But the gratifying thing, right, Fernando, is that sometimes you feel like you're doing heavy lifting pretty much by yourself, till you look around and you realize that there are other people holding your elbows up, that together we're going to make change. So I want to thank you all for your attendance this evening. Mayor-elect, we will be following up with you on a regular basis. And I hope that communication process continues two ways. If there's a thought, suggestion, question that you have that we can help you with, please know that we're available. Kristen?
Denise, to that point, I was really excited to hear your mention of pursuing a policy director, czar. It made me think of the Baltimore model. There's several models. I don't know if that was one of the inspirations for it, but there are lots of great examples where that's worked. One thing, to Denise's point and also Fernando's point, that I've seen work really well is when there is a resident arm that works with that director. They're called different things, but you know, the food policy director, obviously there's a food policy council, but there's a advisory group of residents with lived experience. And I would make a shameless plug for a model like that, and say that a group the CATF would do an excellent job at being a resource for those. They've already got an impressive resume in policy work of this nature.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I'm going to jump in there. The food czar piece. We don't have to go as far as Baltimore. New Haven has had a food director at the city as a city employee for the last several years, and has done amazing work. So, you know, Baltimore is great, and they've done great work. They were the pioneers in this space, but we have a closer example to draw from, and it's something that the Food Policy Commission has been recommending for a couple of years now, that we consider putting something like that in place.
Respectfully, Martha, I was referring to the coupling of a lived experience advisory group with the director, not that there's no director in the council, but to say a lived experience resident group coupled with the director. Thanks.
Anyone else? Arunan, I think I see the wheels turning. What's going on?
No, I look forward to working with this group, and yeah, I will take some time. I've got a lot of
Yes.
reading these days, but I'll take some time going back over the slides and And I will make sure that we try to figure out a point person as we're figuring out our staff to stay engaged with this group, and I would like to personally stay as engaged with this group as I can.
Wishing
Denise,
it.
I think you saw my unhealthy milkshake and got excited about it. So I tried to keep it off screen and go off camera during this healthy food hub call, but
We're all works in process, right?
No shame.
yes.
But I'm very gratified to make this connection and look forward to our continued collaboration. And thank you all for your attendance this evening. It's been a great meeting, and we'll follow up accordingly.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate
Great
it.
job, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Night.
Oh, okay.
Good
All right.
evening.
I guess they were